Good morning, everyone. My presentation today is about the current state and issues of crowdfunding. I used to be one of the Zipcar campus user when I was studying in Minnesota, and my sister was one of the fundraiser who successfully raised funded her project through Kickstarter, and of course I begged for it. So I was familiar with the concept of the sharing economy as a user, but I should say that I'm quite new to it as a researcher. When I started the research project on sharing economy with my colleagues at KDI, so you can take this as an introductory step to the crowdfunding session and as a chance to learn about the Korean situation regarding crowdfunding. So first, I will go over the definition and types of crowdfunding and discuss in detail about the benefits and concerns of crowdfunding. Then next, I will try to make an assessment about how serious those concerns are and whether those concerns can be resolved in the market so that I can draw some implications for the government regarding what it should do for crowdfunding, especially in Korea. What is crowdfunding? It is practice of raising monetary contribution from many people, crowds, via online platform. Here, fundraiser and funder, many people call it different name, but I will just call them as a fundraiser and funder. They are the two major participants in crowdfunding. They are usually individuals or small-sized businesses, so at peer level. And crowdfunding platform here takes the role of an intermediator of a financial transaction between them, mostly matching one fundraiser with many funders. Crowdfunding has been of interest for many people as a way of financing. So yesterday I asked Professor Kupaswamy whether he has considered crowdfunding as a part of the sharing economy, and his answer was like, no, until you invited me to this conference. So, yes, it is a way of financing, and it is also a part of the sharing economy in that funders provide a way of sort of service using either capital assets. So here's the types of crowdfunding by what funders receive in return for providing the money. The first one is donation type. Funders do not expect anything for providing their money, and they contribute to it mainly for artistic or social causes. And the second one is a reward type, and participants expect to receive some form of reward, such as a product. It can be a movie ticket or anything, and it usually takes the form of a pre-order or pre-sale. And these two are non-financial type. And financial type crowdfunding involves a monetary return. Funders expect to receive interest for lending type and shares for equity type. And lending type crowdfunding is also called as a P2P lending. Also, the first and primary benefit of crowdfunding should be the new opportunities for fundraising for fundraisers and investment for funders. Through a more efficient matching system, which was made available through the ICT technology, it creates a new transaction possibility between fundraiser and funder. And it is highlighted because it can be particularly beneficial to startups or SMEs, which have difficulties in getting funds from other existing financial methods. But what's interesting is that for entrepreneurs, it also provides a way to increase their chance of business success. The first one is that the platform allows and promotes active exchange of information among the participants. So it will create wisdom of crowds. So which will lead to a better quality product and project and less risky environment. So for example, in a real model, funders can actually affect the specifications and design of the product by expressing their opinions to the fundraisers. And for financial model, discussions are possible about the credibility or default risk of fundraisers. So bad fundraisers are letting bad fundraisers out of the market. And the second one is that during the campaign, the project can be exposed to many people, and it can benefit from a sort of an advertisement effect because a platform itself may have a promoting mechanism, and also funders themselves introduce the project they fund to their friends and families voluntarily. And the third one is about the opportunity to test the market potential of new product or idea, which fascinates me the most. And so it helps to estimate how its product will gonna perform in the market, and it can and the fundraisers can forecast its demand by the campaign. And once this market potential is proved to be true through the crowdfunding platform, it may opens a way to additional fundraising chance from other financial institutions. So for example, Pebble smartwatch is one of the most successful campaign on Kickstarter, which is one of the most leading reward type platform. The company attracted a huge investment from venture capitals after the campaign on Kickstarter, even though it couldn't attract any money from venture capitals before the campaign. And the second example is Rewalk, which is an Israel company. And it made a case of being listed on NASDAQ after two successful crowdfunding campaigns on Our Crowds, which is an equity type platform. So these were the benefits. And now let me move on to the concerns regarding crowdfunding. Many wonderful presentations yesterday talked about concerns regarding the sharing economy in general. And I think the two major ones were conflict with incumbents, and the second one was about trust or transaction risks. And I want to discuss how those concerns are actualized in crowdfunding. Conflict with existing businesses first include a fear that profits in existing businesses might shrink. It will be the case, this is going to happen if crowdfunding serves only to crowd out traditional financial transactions instead of expanding the market. And then it will trigger some resistance or opposition from the incumbents. And which were the case for accommodation sharing and car sharing, as we saw yesterday. But I think for crowdfunding, users of crowdfunding are differentiated from those in other businesses. So users of crowdfunding are so-called financially excluded. So I think it causes little conflict with existing financial institutions. So at least for crowdfunding, I think a crowding out effect is not a big issue. And But there is still a concern about the potential distortion in competition due to the regulation arbitrage. Crowdfunding users may be in a legal blind spot and subject to looser regulations. Then they might have larger gains than those in existing financial investments have. So this should be treated by the government. And the second major concern was transactional risks. Many participants yesterday covered this, so I will go over it very quickly. The crowdfunding involves various types of peer-to-peer, peer-level participants and non-standardized trades. So a market failure problem may occur due to the asymmetric information problem. But as other participants said, credibility issues is likely to be resolved in the market mechanism, by the market mechanism, as the industry expands and competition between platforms gets tough. There will be a mechanism like platform screening procedure or reviews of reputation, which can reduce the credibility risks. But the real concern regarding transactional risks for crowdfunding is who will take the responsibility when a transactional problem actually occurs. Crowdfunding participants are individuals at the peer level, so it's not easy for them to take the full responsibility. So the insurance should be the answer to it. But at this time, because of the smallness of the crowdfunding industry, it is hard to expect that the market will develop an appropriate insurance for crowdfunding soon. So I think here government should take some role to reduce the coordination failure here. So drawing upon what I've said until now, I think the government role for crowdfunding should be by twofold. The first one is to develop an appropriate institutional foundation for crowdfunding. Yes, crowdfunding is a newly emerging business, so existing laws may not appropriate for crowdfunding. And as I said before, regulatory equity with the incumbent should be considered regarding this matter. And the second role should be to create an environment where market mechanism which reduces the transactional risks can operate smoothly. And this includes alleviating regulations regarding information provision and to reducing coordination failure between crowdfunding platforms until the market is fully developed for insurance development. I go fast. Yeah, I'll finish my presentation with discussions about the state and issues regarding crowdfunding, specifically in Korea. So I have to say that Korea's crowdfunding market has not been fully activated. It has an estimated value of 40 billion won, or $40 million in size as of today. And usually the fund amounts are relatively small. And regarding the businesses, most loans are made to SMEs, not startups. As of July this year, there were about 30 crowdfunding platforms under operation in Korea, and these are the list of the platforms. So as you can see, most of the platforms were launched within the last 5 years, except for some lending type platforms like money auction or pop funding. And there is also a very recent firm which is called Lendit, and that one was launched just like half a year ago. So regarding the non-financial type, I mean donation type or reward type crowdfunding, most countries do not put tight regulations on it, and so is the same for Korea. So regarding the regulation, so regulation-wise, the problem is about financial type crowdfunding, and I will first talk about the equity type crowdfunding. We have a Korean version Jobs Act, which is about the a so-called crowdfunding law, and this will set to go into effect next year. And according to the law, all platforms should be registered, and there is some organization which will serve as the central record manager, and which will manage insurance and investment limit. But I have to say that we have some stricter regulations on investors than other countries. These tables shows the investment limit for equity-based crowdfunding for general investors and for investors who want to invest more and for professional investors. As I remember, this limit is comparable to those of the US, but it is somewhat stricter than lower than most European countries. And the limit for someone who wants to invest more than general investors, they have to have an annual financial income of 20 million won, which is very hard to meet. That's $20,000. Investment limit-wise, it may be okay, but I think the limit dividing the general investors and investors who satisfy the required income level is too tight, I think. And the main issue for regulation is about lending type crowdfunding. A few slides before, I showed you that there are several lending type crowdfunding platforms in Korea, but they are not mediating P2P lending directly. They are in the form of indirect lending through partner financial institutions or financial subsidiary established for this purpose. And even that roundabout way of crowdfunding platform is not completely free from legal controversy. So this creates uncertainties for investors and fundraisers, and it's blocking them from entering into this new business area, and it makes platform to make a long-term business plan. So what should be the future policy direction? My recommendation is that so as someone said in yesterday's presentation, we cannot ignore the sharing economy at all, and the same is true for crowdfunding, I think. So as you can see from this graph, lending type crowdfunding has the largest share of all crowdfunding businesses around the world. It has a share of around 70%. And there's a high demand as well in Korea because of the low interest environment. Even good borrowers cannot borrow from banks. It's very hard because of the conservative operating business. But they don't want to pay for high interest rate of more than 20 or 30%. But lending type crowdfunding allows them an opportunity for borrowing money with an interest rate just over 10%. So many people are waiting for it. So my personal recommendation is Korea should develop legal foundations for lending type crowdfunding instead of ignoring it or branding it illegal, so that the business could be operated safely within the system because platforms are already in the market anyway. So, but lending type crowdfunding is risky as well, like equity type crowdfunding. So it should be regulate it tightly as well. So I think the government should legalize the lending crowd type platform as a separate P2P lending business, while making them register at financial authority. And the government should set a limit on collection and lending in the lending time business and keep track of their trends. So this is a similar poll which Dr. Huang presented yesterday, but this time about crowdfunding. We asked 200 renowned economics professors and economists in Korea, and about more than half of them said that they know well or know very well about lending type crowdfunding. And when we asked whether they agree with the claim legalizing lending type crowdfunding raises total welfare, you can see that more than 60% of the professionals agree or strongly agree with the comment. And you can see 20% were uncertain. So basically, only 15% were disagreeing with the legalization of the lending type business. So I think most economists also agree with me. So I propose that the government should move toward this direction. So this is what I prepared for today. Yeah, thank you for listening.